Hey everybody, this is Mark the Prepper Guy, and I haven't made a podcast in quite a while because, well, what the fuck is there to talk about? Everything is a disaster. So today I just got some information from the sheriff's department because we sponsored their. Let's see if I can remember where that is. Their ride thing, something for charities and kids and stuff. So I got a new plaque and a T-shirt and all that, and some cute little things that like this, and one of these badass replicas of their car that was actually donated with seized funds, so it didn't cost us anything. Because I had asked them about that. It's like, am I paying for this fancy fucking ride? So he said no. That's good. So I was thinking about it because I'm going to be meeting with the deputy that signs us up every year to donate, as much money as we're willing to give to this cause. And I love the sheriff's department. I won't donate to any other organizations locally or anywhere other than my county sheriff, because I believe that strongly in the purpose of a sheriff. And I've tried to keep my donations up, or my membership with COSPA, the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peacekeepers Association, but I slack on that once in a while. But it's just an organization that tries to teach sheriffs how to be constitutional, which I think is a noble cause. So I'm going to be meeting with the deputy, and I'm going to ask if maybe sometime, because I am such a supporter of the Sheriff's Association, is I've talked to the deputy a few times and said, what would really make your image better is if you had a liaison for the citizens, the voters, the constituents of the sheriff. And he thought that was a good idea. His wife is a nurse, and he says, they can raise money like that. Just boom. They have a cakewalk or whatever, sell cookies, and they raise money. He said the sheriff's department has a hard time raising money. And I told him my theory on that was because they're really unknown. You really shouldn't know all your sheriffs and deputies by name unless you live in their neighborhood or something like that, because for the most part they're just out doing their job, and the sheriffs do important work. They solve actually murders and homicides and stuff like that. And yes, they do turn it over to the local police once in a while, but their jurisdiction is the entire county. So a police department might be able to work on a murder that took place or happened within a city, but some of the evidence points out to the county, and that's where the sheriff has jurisdiction and all those things. So when you watch the news sometimes and they're having a press conference, who's the main guy speaking? Well, it's the chief of police, even though it has more to do with the authority of a sheriff. But the sheriffs would rather remain in the shadows, some cases under their desk. So I believe that sheriffs should take a more active part. I really like donating to this charity cause, or whatever they want to call it, because it's for the children, and it's not, oh, they're so poor or this and that. They help kids, all of them. So I like that aspect of it. But what I would like is a program that supports the constituents of the sheriff, and helps, like, with my court case with the city. And I don't know if you're familiar with it. I wrote about it a lot, and talked about it, and vented and cried and whined and bitched, and nothing got done. But with my fight with the city where I live, and planning and zoning. And I spent 2.5 years debating with the city attorney and the city manager and the mayor and the town council and all that, why what they were doing was unconstitutional within the state of Arizona. Because we have the Private Property Rights Protection Act, which says that the city cannot come onto my property and tell me what color to paint my house, nor can the county. And that was passed in 2006 by a unanimous vote. So it wasn't just like squeaked by. Everyone agreed with it. And they will say, well, yeah, but the cities and counties can have their own ordinances. Yeah, of course you can, as long as it's in conjunction with the state constitution. So they can't make an ordinance that violates my state constitutional rights. And then sometimes they'll go, well, it's federal, it's this and that. No, take gun rights. It's a big issue. Second Amendment, 2A, blah blah blah. And they'll say, well, federally thou shalt, carry a gun. Shall means will happen. If the founding fathers expressed an opinion and said humans shall not walk on water, it means you'll never be able to walk on water. And it's not a legal thing. It's physics. You can't do it. They say you can if you have faith, but so far I haven't seen that with my own eyes. So shall not be infringed means exactly that, can never, ever, ever be infringed. And the Supreme Court has ruled on that when it comes to federal laws and states trying to stomp on Second Amendment rights, like the Heller decision. So that's federal. But if a state like California wants to take away your guns, then they'll say, well, states have the right to pass their own laws. That's why they have courts and governors and all the functions of government. They have an actual miniature United States government, constitution. And in that state constitution, it says that the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So what that means is a state can pass laws, but if it's in violation of even their state constitution, then it should be ruled on as being void and repugnant. Well, even if their state constitution allows it, then the state constitution is in breach of its federal mandate or whatever, because the first paragraph of every state constitution says the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So states will sit there and go, well, we can pass this because it's in the Constitution. And it's like, yeah, but you're reading it wrong. And that's what the Supreme Court was designed to do, was to read it right and explain it to people. And they've been doing pretty good. There's been a few fuck-ups, but whatever. It can be rectified. The sad thing is, like with my case in private property, if I really wanted to fight that on that level, I would have had to hire an attorney. And it was, it ended up costing me $6,000 by the time all was said and done, which would have, an attorney would have been 2-3 times that by the time I appealed it and all that. So why should I? And yes, I might have recouped some of my money, but then it's still like a might have, maybe, possibly, depending on the judge and whether he, got breakfast that morning from his wife with eggs and toast and coffee. So it's really predicated on human emotions and indifference at the time and all that. And I would have had to pay all this money. And maybe I would have won and recouped my money. Well, maybe I could have took that $12,000 and invested it in Bitcoin 2.5 years ago, and today I'd be a billionaire. So maybe, what if, blah, blah, blah. So if I ever get a chance to sit down and have a sit down with my sheriff, because he's, deputies, they'll all go, yeah, that sounds good, but they're not the fucking boss. So you need to sit down with your sheriff and go, look, here's what the Constitution of the United States says. And your oath is to the Constitution of your state. And you must obey it. Even if you don't like it. Even if you think, well, people can own a gun, but there's always that but, but if they get some training, well, I can do this blog here. I don't have any training in journalism. And I've heard for years that the pen is mightier than the sword, which it is. So I don't need to take journalism classes, but guns, guns kill people. No, people kill people, and sometimes they use knives and hammers and rocks. Look at David and Goliath. And sometimes they use guns. Sometimes they will run a bus into a crowd of people. Should we outlaw all of that stuff on that line of logic, which is flawed at best? So I would like to ask the sheriff, it's like, what happened to my rights? My rights. You swore an oath to protect my rights, not the city, not the federal government or Homeland Security. It's my rights. Me. My rights end where yours begin. And if we could all learn that, we wouldn't have as many problems. So why can't the sheriff take a lot of its, they got posses now, and at least in my state, they're not total pussies. But, get one of their retired sheriffs or maybe a lawyer that's retired and really would like something to do besides play golf to become a liaison to where I could have called him or her and said, here's what's going on. Here's what this Arizona's Constitution says about private property rights. And that person might go, well, what about this and what about that? And I'd say, well, let's look at my rights. I have the right to freedom of press, free speech, blah, blah, blah. So I want to open a newspaper in my community or a church in my community. So I own private property. And I decide to build a small little church on my private property. But the city doesn't really like what I have to say about religion, and that it's a little bit on the, talking politics side. So we're, the government's already said you can't have a 501c3 if you're going to talk about politics. It's like, well, good. I'll pay my dues. I'll pay taxes. Fuck you. But then the city's like, we just don't like your attitude, Mark. Now, they're not going to come right out and say, Mark, because you're this religion, we don't like you, so go fuck yourself. You can't get a permit to build a church on your property. Is that not a rights violation? Yeah. But the city's not going to say that, though. What they're going to do is go, well, draw some plans, and so we can look at it. It's like, well, first of all, fuck you. Well, I'm building a church, so maybe I don't swear. And then, and then they can look at it and go, well, it's too tall. It's too short. What about fire? What about this? What about that? You got a handicap ramp all there. And it's like, this is a church for my 10 constituents. They'll carry their grandma up the steps. And it's not that. It's that way anyway. Fuck you. I'm in a wheelchair, so I have a wheelchair ramp. Oh, yeah, but it's not, an 1/8-inch drop per 100 feet, so that ramp's going to have to go all the way outside your property and down the street and then all the way back. It's like, whatever. So you start seeing where they use this like rent seeking, which is to, sell you a token to build a church. What's that token worth to you? Well, it depends on what the next guy's willing to pay for that token. It's almost like property values. If somebody's going to buy the neighbor's house for $1 million, then if I want to sell mine, I should probably have to get $1.1 million. So that's what rent seeking is kind of like in a bastardized version of Marx logic. So you just can't build a church. They're not going to tell you they don't like you. They're just going to throw so much bullshit in your way that you can't fight it. You're trying to build a church, not a courtroom and become a lawyer. So you should be able to call your sheriff and go, hey, my understanding of the Constitution says this and that. And the liaison would go, well, you make a good point. Let me look into it. See, I'm going to be your advocate. I'm not a lawyer. You don't have to pay me. I'm paid by the sheriffs, or I do this for free because I love liberty and I hate bureaucrats, whatever. So they look in it and come back and go, you're right. According to that Constitution in your state, says they can't tell you what color to paint your house for any reason because it's all they can do is quote public health and safety, but your land is private. So we need to explain to the city that their jurisdiction ends at your property line. And they understand that because you can protest in front of someone's house, but you can't go onto their property and protest. I can drink on my property. I can drive my golf cart. Operating a vehicle while under the influence is none of their fucking business as long as it's on my private property. And I explained that to the judge in my case. I was like, look, when I lived in Mesa, when this whole smoking thing was going on about no smoking here, no smoking there, and you're, had to join a leper colony to smoke, I couldn't smoke in my apartment property. I couldn't smoke at the pool. I couldn't smoke in the parking lot. I couldn't even go in my car and sit there and smoke a cigarette while I'm talking on the phone. But the minute I walked upstairs and stepped across my threshold, I could turn right around and go outside onto the balcony and smoke a cigarette, and my neighbor could be right next door coughing up a storm because I'm blowing smoke in his face, and it's too fucking bad. You know why? Because the law said so. That's private property. Now look at it like New York, one of the most regulated dumps on the planet. And they actually kind of created this whole planning and zoning thing, for racist reasons. Let's be fucking honest about that. But you've watched Blue Bloods and all these shows, and for all the many, many, many years, and they'll go, let's go in, and usually the smarter cops like, we don't have a search warrant, we can't go in. And they go, and nowadays it's kind of funny because he goes, did you hear that? And then they just go in. That wouldn't hold up in court, and that cop would get sued. But see, he's the good guy in this show, so we all laugh. But the reality is they can't go in. Even in New York, they got to get a search warrant. Because if they go in and there's nobody in there, all the evidence is thrown out of court because they didn't have a search warrant. In an apartment in New York. So they can't come on your yard and start going, hey, what are you building? Hey, did you get a permit? And so you can be like me and tell the guy, get off my fucking property or I'm going to bury you. And I have a tractor and a backhoe. They kind of take offense to that. And then they pull out all their guns, which are, lawsuits, and more lawsuits. So you don't really want to say that, even though you want to say that. So you have rights, and there's laws that protect them. And one of them is private and public property. Public property is the shit your city owns. A public park, public sidewalk, public roads, public library, public court, public schools. Now, if I open a school in my house, that's a private school and no one's business. But let's take it another common sense step forward. I already said I could go in my balcony and smoke in Mesa, highly regulated area, and there's nothing anyone could do. If my neighbor would have called the cops, he would have been, well, he's on his property. Why are you bugging me? I got donuts to eat. So what about, have you ever applied for, to be a restaurant or even sell, jam or whatever? There's all these public health codes because you're going to be selling it to the public. Where you make it isn't always as important as the fact that it's going to be sold to the public. That puts you in their realm of bureaucratic claws. They can kind of get a snag on you like a cat and then pull you over and pounce on you. So I asked the judge that. I go, well, what if I have a barbecue? Because I know the codes for health and food in restaurants. I know a lot of restaurant owners, and they get inspected and searched and pay all these fees for their food handlers' licenses and stuff like that. So it's like, what if I'm at home in my backyard and I have a barbecue? And I decide to, let my neighbors in, which are considered the public. But they come on my private property and we're eating hot dogs and hamburgers and drinking beer and talking politics and driving the golf cart around and getting drunk. And a health inspector drives by and he's like, I smell barbecue. And he walks onto my fucking private property and says, hey, you can't do that. Well, first of all, I'd laugh and one hamburger. You look hungry. But he can't come on my property and tell me I can't do that because, one, it's private property. It's not a restaurant. It's not open to the public. And even that is borderline bullshit. And then I'm not selling it. See, I can brew alcohol. I can distill alcohol in my state. It's legal. I can't sell it. And I can't give it to minors, which I wouldn't anyway. But the main thing is the word sell it. Now, my problem with sheriffs all across the country is they don't realize what their job is. See, they just get elected and they think they're getting paid, and they'll kiss the ass of the chief of police and everybody in the city councils and the Homeland Security and all that instead of doing their fucking job. And it's because they don't know their fucking job. And that's what the COSPA is to do, is to teach them their job. Well, if I could meet with my sheriff and say, if you just get a liaison, I could call that liaison 3-4 years ago, whenever this whole shitstorm started. And I could have said, hey, can you help me out? And it's like, yeah, you know what? Just keep working, and we're going to have a sheriff on call and a deputy. And if they come back on your property, you tell them to leave. And all you got to do is call the sheriff's department. I'm going to let them know that this is going on in your city because they're all bureaucratic pigs. And sheriff will come out and explain to him that he's trespassing and he must leave. And then if the police want to come by and write you a citation, for planning and zoning, they will have to explain to the sheriff's deputy what crime was actually being committed. And not a ordinance violation, an actual crime that's being committed. What crime has this man committed? Well, I gotta write him a ticket because this guy that has this alleged authority and a fake badge says that he's violating a crime. It's like, well, no, sir, that's an ordinance. It's not a crime. It's not a constitutional resolution or a statute or any violation that would hold up in court. So if your police officer tries to come onto this property and write him a ticket, I will trespass him off of here too, and I will actually arrest him and incarcerate him because he knows the law. He shouldn't be doing that at all. Your dumbass planning and zoning guy just needs to go home and calm the fuck down. And I think that is what needs to be done. Now, I would like to shorten it and maybe put together a PowerPoint presentation for this. So if I do get a chance, because I'm going to push for a chance to talk to my sheriff, because he's a pretty good guy, actually. He handled the COVID mask mandate great. He just told everybody, we're not going to enforce it. The police aren't even going to come out if you're crying about somebody not wearing a mask. It's just not going to happen. And if they punch you out because you're on their property, I'll arrest you. So he's a good sheriff. He just needs to know. So my ask is that if you have ideas on this and thoughts on it, email me, mark@prepperguy.com. And what you think. If you're a lawyer, Mark, you brought up some good points. What about this? What about that? Now, I'm not one to really get caught up into the weeds of the legal system because it's just horseshit. And you see everything that's going on with Trump and all that. Those are just expensive photo ops for the DAs and all that. Anytime you sue your government for a right you already have, then what you're doing, even if you win, is just proving that they had some jurisdiction and authority in the first place. And then they said, oh, I'm sorry, we'll quit violating your rights. No, you don't pass a law to reinforce your rights. You just arrest the fuckers that are doing it wrong and move on. But see, everybody, like even the NRA, which is why I quit, sending them money, is because they'll get all these, court cases going, and all it's doing is giving legitimacy to to the law breaking that's going on. It's a federal law. It's Constitution. Your right to bear arms shall not ever, ever, even if Martians come here and tell you to do it, violate the citizen's right to bear arms. Never. I don't know how to make it any clearer other than to ask people, read the definition of shall. Shall. I mean, I think even the Ten Commandments made it pretty clear, thou shalt not ever, under any circumstances, commit adultery. So what Bill Clinton did with Monica Lewinsky, it was adultery. You can paint it any color you want, but it's still the same thing in the eyes of the law of God, and it should be that way in the eyes of the law of America. And it is. We've just gotten judges and we've gotten lazy and we haven't stood up for our rights. And now when we think we're going to court to sue somebody over this, hopefully we get a ruling that's favorable. It's like, first of all, judges don't make rulings. They're fucking judges. They should look at it and go, no, city, you're wrong. Bye. Yes, city, you're right. Bye. You had no right to violate this guy's civil rights. You went on his property. You hit him. That's assault. It's very simple. I was listening to something about, this ultimately pure and simple principles are usually very simple and easy. So I'm going to wrap it up and edit this down a little bit because I do get a little long-winded, and maybe I'll take the transcript and turn it into a shorter post. And then if you listen to this, awesome. I really need help, and so do you, on getting control of our sheriffs and making our sheriffs get control of our counties and our cities by explaining to them the way it really is. And so that's what needs to happen. We don't need something to go on in Washington to make your life better in Washington. You don't live in Washington, D.C. The federal government does not run the states. The states run Washington. And once we figure that out and we get control of our house, which is your home, your city, your town, your county, then your state, then maybe all 50 states can get together and tackle the federal government, which is out of bounds and crazy. So that's what needs to happen. And you and I just need to make it happen. And the only way we can do that is locally. I'm pretty sure you don't have enough money to go hire an attorney in Washington, D.C. and get involved in a 5-6 year photo op just to get the judge to go, maybe you're right, but I don't like you, so you lose. You set these precedences all the time, and they will use those against you. Now, in the Heller decision, the Supreme Court set a precedence, and it doesn't matter. See, what matters is what the politicians and the bureaucrats say that matters, so why waste your money in court? Because they're not going to do it anyway. The Roe v. Wade, it was always a state's issue. They got it turned around to where it was a federal issue, which it's not, because nothing is a fucking federal issue if the states decide to do something else. And now everybody's like, well, we're just not going to follow it. Well, then good. It's not law. It's just a Supreme Court opinion. But if your state decides to follow and do the right thing, you can move if you don't like it. So that's how it works in America, and these photo ops are just bullshit. It gives precedence to these politicians that get up there and blather on and talk and talk and talk, and we're going to create a committee to look into this bullshit case against Trump. Just fucking dismiss it. Go to the court and say, you're out of bounds. We're going to disbar you if you don't dismiss this. Well, I was elected. It's like, well, good, then we'll unelect you. We have billions of dollars at our disposal to just get you kicked out of office because you're violating your oath of office. No, let's go to court. Why? Well, because my buddy, Bob, he's a lawyer. Oh, well, fuck. Let's get him involved. This is what's happening to our country. It's just a shit show run by all of the leeches that suck the blood out of America, the blood of liberty. It needs to be replenished because we're losing it all. It's being sucked out by leeches. We all know this. I mean, I look at the news and I think we're not that way in America. I've never met those people that are that fucked up, that hate this race or hate that race. I just really haven't. But the media and their bullshit is, really pushing hard to say that I had privilege when I grew up. No, I was born in the poorest neighborhood in Tucson. It's just, you have privilege because you're privileged to be born an American and you have the ability to become as rich as Trump or as poor as Bob the crackhead. So that's your privilege. So they're fucking everything up, is what I'm trying to say. So we need to fix it, and we need to fix it on a local level, and we don't need to go to court. We don't need another kangaroo court, another photo op, whether it's in the city or anywhere else. We don't need it. I went to court because they sued me, and I strung them out for 2.5 years. Didn't cost them any more because, Jesus Christ, they have insurance and shit, so they can fuck with you endlessly. But you know what? I got a lot of entertainment out of it because I knew at the end of the day it was still going to come down to the same fucking thing. Get a permit, pay the fine. Oh, okay. Well, once they took me to court, then nothing was going to change in that outcome. Nothing. So I just grinned and bucked with them for 2.5 years. Even the city attorney said, I'm really sorry this has taken a lot of time because that was during the whole COVID, scare. And I said, no, I enjoy this. It's like when I went to college and we had study groups. We just all sat around and bullshitted and ate food and drank coffee and learned things. I go, you're not wasting my time. I'm wasting yours. So I don't know how to sum it all up, but sheriffs need to be an active part of your county and your freedom and your liberty. In my town, just 5-6 months ago, 2 people were arrested on automatic weapons charges. So it was an ATF bullshit charge because the ATF has no constitutional right over my guns, but we allow them to. And so they weren't really it's not like they had Tommy guns or, fully automatic assault rifles or fucking a fully automatic shotgun or a tank. No. They had a trigger assembly, 2 trigger assemblies that could, if they were put in, made it automatic. Now, as an American, you have a right to build your own gun. If you're going to sell it, then maybe you should get a permit or whatever because they'll fuck you if you don't. It's not really like it's the right thing to do. It's just don't get fucked. So they hadn't done any of that. They were sitting in their shelf because, the guy builds guns and his friend. So there was no crime. They hadn't put it in anything and sold it to anyone without paying the government their taxes and shit. It was just there. They had bought them legally. Now, my point to this is they get arrested by ATF officers. In my fucking county, where was my sheriff? See, ATF has no jurisdiction in a county when the sheriff is the big dog on the porch. He will just run them off and bite their ass when they're running. That's what the big dog means. The sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer in any county. So I hope the families actually sue the sheriff's department for allowing this to happen because that's the way it would work. So the sheriff should have just said, hey, wait a minute, when this was happening. I'm sure they knew. They all know everything that's going on. The sheriff should have intervened and said, wait a minute, what are you charging them with? Why are you SWAT teaming them? Why have you broken down their door and ransacked their fucking house? Well, ATF, you don't have any jurisdiction. He's like, go, excuse me, yes, I do. And I have 45 officers out there that outnumber you 3-1 that say we do. Now you put him back. You restore his house and his property and everything. And me and you are going to go down to the police department and have a little conversation. Now, if you have enough evidence that you think I should go investigate this guy, I'll do that. That's my jurisdiction. But for now, I'm placing you under arrest, and the government can give me back $5 or $6 million as a fine for arresting you for trespassing within my county. Now, see, that could happen. It's kind of far-fetched. It's like a movie, Yeah, stick it to him. But the sheriff could do that. He wouldn't have to hit him with a fine. He might just take him in and detain him for a couple hours until some other feds show up with permission and get them the fuck out of there. And maybe even seize their vehicles. Why not? Government is all about asset forfeiture. So take the ATFs, cool shit. Everybody's like, well, my county, is buying into all this SWAT team shit because we get really cool gear. Well, just seize all these fuckers that work for the government when come into your county and take their cool gear. It's legal under asset forfeiture laws. I don't understand. And the more you look into any aspect of this property issue and sheriffs being important people, the more it goes into almost fucking la-la land. Just like my thing with the sheriff's department, busting and seizing the assets of the ATF. It just seems so far-fetched. It's like, oh, Mark, come on. You're talking fantasy land here. No, this is actual constitutional law. And if they would do it, you could all sit there and cheer just like at the end of a movie and go, that was great, Sheriff. You're awesome. And you brought in $3 million in fines from the federal government for breaching your sovereignty. So when you think about it, you're just like, oh, that'll never happen, Mark. Well, no, it will never happen. You know why? Not because it can't happen, not because it's implausible or even impossible. It just won't happen because not enough sheriffs know just how fucking much power they have to restore the United States as America as the liberty and light at the top of the hill thing it used to be. It has become a fucking joke. When I took accounting, my teacher was a real stickler for using a pen. Now, I can't even spell my name right sometimes, so I had to have things erased. So the first time I handed in a quiz with it in pencil, he gave me an F and said, don't ever use pencil again, use a pen. Not that anything was wrong. So I told him, I said, well, I just don't like cluttered, shit and, misspelling and stuff. He's like, I don't care. You never erase a ledger entry. You write a new one. Even if you spelt it wrong, you just make a whole new ledger entry, void that one, or compensate for it. It's double entry, so you have to do that and then do that and then do it right the next time. And I was like, well, that seems like a lot of fucking wasted time just for an accounting class. I mean, I'm not running the books for a big corporation. Maybe the government, that might be okay. So I bought these pens that were erasable ink. And as soon as you made a mistake, if you realized it right away, you could erase it and you wouldn't even know it was ever there. So I had a couple hours before I handed it in to clean it all up and erase it. As long as it didn't show, he didn't know. I got straight A's in that class because I had to. My grade point average. What I'm saying is the Constitution now that politicians think is real is written in erasable ink. And they think as long as we erase it, or they erase it, then we won't know. They just fucking erase that Second Amendment. Erase that word shall and make it shouldn't. There you go. Starts with an S. Americans are stupid. They won't know the difference. And we don't, really. And so they're erasing all these things. And then our sheriffs swear to uphold the Constitution, but they're not aware enough to know which Constitution they're upholding. Same with the military. Same with all law oath keepers. They're keeping an oath to a Constitution that didn't exist 100 years ago. And they don't understand that it was changed. And it was changed only legally through the amendment process a few times. The rest of the time it's been changed through the courts, which is not legal and should be an arrest warrant issued. So I don't know how we fix it. I mean, I think meeting with sheriffs and stuff like that in your area, especially if you donate until you bleed, for their cause, they might listen to you. And if you put together some good, strong talking points, don't just sit there and do like most people in a town hall. Well, you're stupid and you should go to jail. Your deputy should arrest you. Because see, that's like arguing with a mental patient. Just go, here's what I found out. Sheriff, these are civil rights violations. And you need to be aware of that. And here's your authority according to the Constitution. You follow the state constitution. And if you're not sure, then you look back to the United States Constitution, and that's the supreme law of the land. And so these laws that you're enforcing are actually null and void and repugnant if somebody could just afford to do that. And so I need you to protect my rights. When someone comes on my property, not only just should you trespass him off my property, but what if he's a bureaucrat with a badge from planning and zoning and says, I can't have chickens? You should sit there and go, no, that ordinance is void. It's repugnant. It's against the state constitution because of private property laws. We don't like it. Well, good. Get off this man's property before I arrest you. And don't ever come back again or I'll get you for harassment. So we need our sheriffs. I mean, that's all we got left. You can have elections until you're blue in the face, and you can get a new congressman, but they don't know their oath of office has been stolen from them either, and their authority is gone because of the 17th Amendment, I think. So they don't know. Your senators don't care. Neither does your congressman, really. And your president should be elected by the states, not the people. So he doesn't care now because he's got a mandate from all of the people, which is not the way it was supposed to be. So all you can do now is go to the one guy that's got the biggest, baddest badge in the county, and that's your sheriff. And you need to go to him and her and say, we expect this out of you. I'm going to start, rather than sue somebody, which is a waste of money. I got $20,000 and I was thinking of suing you, but what I'm going to do is start an ad campaign to get you out of office because of these reasons here. And I've talked to people all over Facebook, social media, at the library, everywhere, and they all agree that you're really kind of a screw up. So you got another year and whatever until the election, and I'm going to start raising money to get you out. Or if you change your ways and actually go to some classes and learn some shit, I'll help elect you, get you back in, or keep you in. See, now, if you're going to sue somebody, it's going to cost you way more than that. And really, people care about images and getting elected. They don't care what the courts think about what a great fucking job they're doing, because that judge and those 12 people on the jury are only a total of 13 votes. So you got to get this figured out. So start not being assholes to these sheriffs, because what you don't want a sheriff that's a political hack. You want a sheriff that realizes where his bread is buttered, or her. And when you look at the elections in your county, the sheriff doesn't get like 99% of the votes. Because first of all, usually only 40, 50% of the whole county vote. And then out of that, he got, 20%, just enough to win, which is out of half the population. That means all you got to do is convince maybe 10,000 people that you're right and he's wrong. That's not that hard to do in today's world. So start fighting. Fight dirty. I look at some of this stuff on the news and I'm like, why doesn't Trump get a couple lawyers together? Because he's still got money. I mean, they're trying to take it all from him, but he's still got money. You don't want to wait until the point of no return when you're broke. And get put together like not a PAC, but like an advocacy group, and just start suing these prosecutors because what they're doing is unconstitutional. It's illegal and it's wrong. So just sue them. And then when they go, Trump's doing this to get vindictive, go, I don't even know those people. Oh, but then he'd be lying, Mark. It's like, yes, so fucking what? We're supposed to be a nation of laws, and we're not. And when the lawmakers start breaking the laws, then I guess I can be able to cheat also. Especially if my ends justify the means much more than their ends justify the means, because they just hate Trump. I hate loss of liberty. And there was a time in this country 200 and some years ago to where people were so tired of the loss of liberty that they actually killed people. Now, you want to talk about what's wrong? Murder is wrong. So they're just like, fuck you. The ends in this case do justify the means. We will either be serfs to the King of England for the rest of our lives, or we will kill a bunch of these yo-yos and get our country. And that's what they did. So you have to keep it all in perspective. I'm not talking about tyranny or being a traitor or a revolution. I hate those ideas. I think a revolution in America would be the worst thing that could happen to your liberty and my liberty overnight. It would just be over. America, that off chance that the founding fathers caught lightning in a bottle, will be extinguished. Over. It's fucking over. But doing the same thing they're doing and fighting fire with fire is not illegal. Because if it really was illegal and anyone gave a shit, then all these judges and district attorneys would be in jail, rotting. And they really should be. But because they lie, and you and I believe it, and the media lies to you, then all you can do is fight fire with fire. Is it a good idea to start a fire in your backyard? No. But if you can burn all that brush around your house before it burns your house down, yes. So that's what they mean by fight fire with fire. If these people are going to lie and twist the meaning of the law and the words from shall to shouldn't and all that, then we should do the same fucking thing. So, I like police. I support the hell out of the police. And usually when I get a ticket, I don't fight it because that takes away from his time doing his job. But you know what? If a cop gives me a ticket that's just a flat violation of my rights and it's unjust and it's wrong, I will meet her in court any day and waste as much of their time as I can. And I might even appeal it 3 or 4 times. Why? Because they need to learn. But when you go to court, what happens is most of the time the cop doesn't show up, which means the judge is going to call his officer today and go, why are you wasting my fucking time writing these tickets? I just looked it over. It was bullshit. No wonder you didn't show up in court. Stop wasting my time. If you're going to write a ticket, you better be ready to show up in court. So we have a little bit of time to come together with a plan to save our country. The days are numbered for sure. When you look at what's going on, every aspect of our lives, the economy, the military-industrial complex, the legal system, the school system, everything you come in contact with every day, maybe 5, 6 times a day, are being jerked around. And you, whether you know it or not, are losing. You're losing liberty day by day, incrementally. It's just incrementalism is what they call it. And so they teach your kids some bullshit, and a year later they're teaching them to cut off their private parts. And, there's not a bright light anywhere. I don't care what to say. I mean, investing, I think, like in stocks is probably the only bright light left because it's still yours. That's why I got into a little bit of Bitcoin, because I can have a wallet and I can become my own bank and no one can fuck with it. I have gold and silver. Why? Because no one can fuck with it. Most people don't even know I have it. Well, except you 10 that might listen to this. I have guns and ammo so I can protect what I have built. I have my property. My house is paid for. Why? Because I spent my whole life paying it off. It's mine. Now, is it mine if I can't protect it? No. So if they take away my gun rights, then can I protect it? If they make it okay and legal and fine for some bureaucrat to step on my property and not get shot for trespassing, then I'm going to lose it. You don't own it if you can't control it. And if you can't protect it, someone will take it. I mean, on a side note, my gold and silver could still be stolen. If my house burnt down, it would be fine. It'd just be in a puddle under my house because I have a subfloor. So it's still there, so many ounces. It's just got dirt in it. Um, but if a thief breaks in and steals it, then I don't have it anymore. If the government breaks in and steals my property, I don't have it anymore. And they'll do it through lies and manipulation and force, whatever. So it's no longer the golden rule, it's the firearms rule. Whoever's got the bigger guns and a fucking badge can take your shit. So they make the rules. So do you own your house? No. Don't pay your property tax. You'll find out real quick you don't own that. They pass a law with guns, and then you don't get them registered, and they find them. They just come in and take them. If you don't like it, they'll shoot you. So they'll just hand you a piece of paper and say, we're going to seize all your weapons. And you're just going to have to go, oh, okay, or die. Now I know a lot of people go, that's the hill I'll die on. Well, maybe the hill you're going to die on is better located through, fighting these things before they get bad. The only way you can stop them from taking your guns is have a sheriff that will stand in front of you, and between you and them, and say, no, you're not. Get the fuck out of here. The ATI, well, I'll bring back enough FBI guys. It's like, well, how many do you got? It's like, well, we got 20 of them on standby here. It's like, well, I got 100 deputies in a posse. So I think you're outnumbered. Get the hell out of here. Go come up with a better attack plan to steal my residents and my constituents' property. Until then, get the fuck out of here. That's all it would take. It'd be like a 10-minute conversation. It'd be over. But no, they don't know how to do it either. No one in politics knows how to do their fucking job anymore. And we're not trying to teach them because you know what? We don't know it either. It's sad when you really look at the game plan. We've lost. We don't even know it. We're so dead. We're beyond dead man walking and dead woman walking. We're just dead. We're like in the movie The Ghost, or Ghost with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore. Yeah. Doesn't even know, dead. Like, when did this happen? So we need to learn to fight legally. So, I invested a little bit in Griptone. Why? Because I can have a digital wallet. I can hide it. And even if someone steals it, I might be out my money, but they ain't getting it. And if I don't lose my information for that, I can buy another wallet, transfer what I had in that one to this one if I have the right words, and I'm done. It's mine again. It's not like I got to wait for the cops to go find my gold and silver. Well, we think it was this guy, but we're not sure. I just log on, do some, digital magic. All my money is restored. That's kind of cool, actually. A lot of people go, Mark, Bitcoin, you're an idiot. For 70 years old, you're not very smart. Well, I got gold, I got silver, I got ammo, I got guns, I got property. All of that stuff can be taken from me. And if I wanted to get out of Dodge, I don't think I could carry it all with me with, maybe 2 semis. I can't pick up my dirt and my property. They can't steal it, but they can take it. It's takings. They can't just load up all my dirt down 10 feet and go somewhere else because I still got that dirt under there. So they take it. They take it through documents. These fake instruments that are supposed to protect us, but they're just made out of paper. And that's the thing with the Constitution. It's a parchment barrier. It's that barrier that protects your rights and your liberties and your property. It's made out of paper. And when they start ignoring it and changing the words in it, you don't have it anymore. Now, I know I wanted this to be short and sweet, but whatever. A lot of people are now into the long form, podcasts and stuff, and that's what this is going to be, I guess. All that said, And you look at yourself and you go, God, what can I do to protect myself and maybe give my kids and grandkids a better life? What can, think to myself, self, what can I do? Well, when you boil it all down, the states created the federal government so the states can change it. They can walk away from it. They can do a million things that doesn't cost you or me any fucking money whatsoever. But they're not going to. So then you think, well, I'm going to run home and try to protect what I got. That's a good idea. Yeah, do that. So then you go, well, now I need a big dog on my porch that will bite anyone that comes in. Only problem with the dog is it can be shot. I know. I'll elect a sheriff that's not a fucking moron. And I will tell him, your job description, sheriff, is to protect my rights. I don't want you answering the phone when Homeland Security calls you. I don't want you talking and chit-chatting with the fucking governor. I want you home. We brought you to the dance and you will stay until that dance is over with us. And if you don't like that, then don't come to the dance in the guise of an election and I want to help everybody. I believe in your freedom and your liberty. I don't know what it means, but I believe that we as a people can fix it. Yes, we can. If you knew how. Yeah, you could fix it. I could go to your house and perform brain surgery. I believe it works. I believe that if I operated on your brain, I could save you like the Roman soldiers had done back in the day. I just don't fucking know how. But with all that commitment in my voice, I believe I can do this. I could get elected and then turn around and go, I can't do brain surgery. What the fuck? So the more you realize, like any trapped animal, this little pagrat or whatever rabbit runs into its hole. Pretty much can't be gotten to by certain things. You know, there's always snakes, but has an escape route. But the big predators, the wolves at the door, can't get in. Now, if that rabbit was smart enough to hire or elect a snake to stand guard over his home, then the coyote and the wolf really don't want to be messing around with a pit viper or a rattlesnake. So now you're covered. See, all you got to do is make it home. Well, in America, that's pretty easy. We all live pretty close to home, within a few hours, unless you're on vacation. But your home and your family and everything you've stored up in that hovel called your rabbit den or whatever it's called is protected by a pit viper. You don't have to worry about it. And then at the end of the day, you come home and go, hey, pit viper, I brought you something to eat. Here's your paycheck. I'm going to elect you next year. You know why? Because every time I've needed you, you've been there. I'm going to elect you again. In fact, you can be the Chief County Pit Viper for the rest of your life. You just keep protecting me and my friends. It's that mindless, it's that childish, it's that simple, and it's that real. If you want to save your country, go home. And then go to your county and then go to your home and hire a pit viper to protect your rights. These guys go, I'm going to join the military and fight for America. The fuck you are. You're just a mercenary in a uniform provided by the United States government. I'm sorry. But there is a reason why the founding fathers said no standing army. Because Rome had that, and look what happened to them. England had a standing army, and look how that turned out for all the subjects. We had militias. We had sheriffs. Our border is collapsing that way, just 40 miles or 30 miles that way from where I am right now. is a border that's being overrun. And you would think my sheriff would sit there and go, well, I got enough men, I'm going to protect it. You guys can't do it. And then if the Border Patrol says, hey, that's our job, it's like, well, then do it. I'm going to give you 2 days to straighten up and start arresting these people and throwing them back over, or we're going to take over and I'm going to seize all your cool trucks and Raptors and all that shit, and I'm going to throw you out and give you a bus ticket back to Washington, D.C., because fuck off. And then most of the guys in the Border Patrol that live here locally would go, well, I kind of need this job. It's like, well, good. Change uniforms. Here you go. In fact, you can work under me and you can keep your Raptors and all that stuff, but you take your orders from me. Your orders begin and end right here in this county. And if I hear you talking to anybody from Homeland Security or anywhere else, then you're out of here. Well, they'll take my retirement. Well, sucks to be an American these days. Either do your job or get the fuck out of here. Go to Washington and collect your retirement. Get a job pushing paper. I don't care. Go away or do your job. That would be it. End of story. Don't have to build a wall. Don't have to do fucking shit. We didn't have a wall for hundreds of years. We just had people that cared. Now, the problem in Mexico is that their leadership has stolen their land. So why go home when you don't have a home? Where that mouse used to live that had a pit viper watching his home, they paved it. It's gone. They didn't even ask. They just paved right over it. The mouse either fled or died or tunneled for a very long time to get out from under that Walmart parking lot. So they can't go home. So why don't we, I know there is a reason why we have a standing army. Why don't we go to Mexico and give the people their property back? So that way they can go home because they have a home. Get it? Look, it seems really complicated. It seems so complicated that people will listen to me and say, Mark, you're fucking nuts. But I was listening to a guy named Saylor, who's, what's his name, Michael Saylor, who's like the Bitcoin guy. I mean, he didn't start it or anything because that was Satoshi, but or whoever they were. But he was saying what makes Bitcoin so special is the unique DNA in which it was made up of. It was unique, like people are unique. Fish are born and they swim while they're hatched. Birds know how to fly. It's that unique DNA code that makes them that way. You don't see birds going, hey, I'm going to play around with these drugs and this DNA and see if I can make you walk. It's like, I don't fucking want to walk. See, it's the simplicity of it. And the girl in the interview, Brunel, really smart gal. She's like, well, what kind of government? And he goes, well, the more transparent and the more simple it is, the better. Like if we were America with 50 states, that would be 50 small countries doing their own thing. And if it didn't work, if one county said, hey, you can't live here if you wear an orange shirt or you work on Tuesdays, you know what happens? People fucking move and the county goes bankrupt. But when you have an overlord, like the President of the United States has become, and he goes, no, you can't move, because if you move over there, it's the law there too. So orange shirts are now illegal and working on Tuesdays and Thursdays is legal. Now this is Michael Saylor saying this. I'm bastardizing it quite a bit, but he goes, then all of a sudden, people with blue eyes can't work. And pretty soon you're like Hitler or Stalin back in the days of communism in Russia that say, no, you can't do this and you can't do that or I'll kill you. But the beauty of America is it's so simple. The DNA is so pure and simple the way it was. So if we could go back to that simple, simplistic, perfect DNA strand that the Founding Fathers had wrote, because that was the best at the time based on 700 years of constitutional laws and overthrowing governments and stuff, to where they stumbled on that one DNA code that it had to have, which was representative government, a representative republic. Everything else had been done before. But when they said, no, Mark, you elect the guy next door to be your representative. And you only have, like 10,000, 20,000 people that live in that district. And you all know him or her because you went to school with them. They're your neighbor. And so those 20 or 100 or whatever in the state get together at the state capitol and they hash everything out, and then they do a vote. So that's why they say we're a democracy. That's it. So then they all get together and go, well, you know what? We need 2 senators to go to Washington and tell the federal government what we, the states, expect, not what we want, with cup in hand. It's like, what you're doing is opposed to the Constitution, so do this. And that's all the senators were supposed to do. So they were really like glorified mailmen. So that right there made America pure. It was the most perfect DNA strand ever invented. Could it have gotten better? Sure. I'm sure even alien technology improves over time. But they don't make it worse. They make it more pure, more simple, and better. So it is that simple. It really is as simple as I'm saying. Get your sheriff to get his or her head out of their fucking federal government's ass, stop licking the boots of the bureaucrats that aren't even elected, and stand up for those who put you there. If I hire a bodyguard and every time there's a fight, he or she runs and cowers behind the car and I get shot or hurt, I'm going to fire that son of a bitch the minute I get out of the fucking hospital. And the sheriff is that bodyguard. And if they can't do their job, kick them to the curb and ask for their badge and gun back as they're going out the building. And it's done. It's done. The problems are solved. We go back to a constitutional republic, not a democracy. We change some of the laws over time once we get control of things and do away with some of these amendments that were fucking bullshit, just like prohibition was the law of the land at one time. It became unenforceable, and so therefore it was repealed. We can do that with some of these things, We really could. We could fix it. We're not going to. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not blowing, hopium up your ass here. It's just, it could be. It could be if enough people gave a shit. But we're not educated enough to even know what shit to give. Our sheriffs are all basically elected bureaucrats that just want a paycheck and they want their name in lights and pat on, oh, good job, sheriff. Doing what? Well, nothing. You just look good in that uniform. So it can be fixed. It's a long and tough row to hoe, I guess is the expression. And we're doing it without tractors and combines. We got to do this one by hand. I'm an eternal pessimist, and I just don't think it's going to happen. Gravity consumes all things, and eventually our government will collapse under the weight of its own self. Just like Rome, just like the Byzantine Empire, so many others, they just did really good, and they got all full of themselves, and they're we're so fucking cool. God, Bob, what a good job. Fucking good on you, Mary. Awesome. Keep fucking things up. We're getting rich. Oh, what about people? Fuck them. We'll be dead by the time they're figured out. And normally that's true. Most of the fucking assholes in the world will outlive the problems they create. I watched that show, The Men Who Built America, about the Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts and all that. And after watching all the, 5 or 6 series, it's like, I told my wife, I said, you know how they were able to do that? Not only because they were innovative, smart, and they were willing to put their neck on the line and their money. there weren't any income tax. See, because that was a new bastardization of alien technology when they did that. And so now you've created a nation of liars and cheats because everybody's got to find a way out of taxes. Tax avoidance is not illegal, tax evasion is. Well, tax avoidance is our problem. When a church can't tell you that your local official is doing something diametrically opposed to your family's health and well-being, they will lose their 501c3. And what does that mean? Oh, now they're not tax exempt. What if they never were tax exempt? Oh, then they wouldn't have to listen to the king tell them what to say and do and think. That's so. It's a long road to hoe by hand because it took a long time to establish that row. It took almost 90 years to go from a representative republic that was doing pretty good. We had our problems, the Depression and all that, but so the fuck what? Every country has problems. The founding fathers didn't say you'll be happy ever, live happy ever after like Cinderella. They said be vigilant, ever vigilant. So you got to start reversing all of that shit out of there. Now, if you study, then you'll see that a lot of times if you have a three-legged stool and all you got to do is cut one off to have the thing fucking fall over. You don't need to sit there and go, well, let's see, let's start whittling down this leg, and then when it gets crooked, we'll whittle down that leg, and then we'll whittle that, and we'll just keep slowly whittling it down. Just cut the fucking main leg off that's giving you the problem and let the thing fucking fall down. Now, it's not a chair, so you still got the other two legs if they're worth saving, but if it's all going to equilibrium and work out if you're constantly working on taking care of the problems in it. The solutions are right there. And sometimes the solution is hiding behind 5 or 6 problems and you don't see it. But the minute you start chopping on it, you start going, oh, look at that. I don't know if you guys are as handymanish as I am, but, my wife has this thing where she's always like, what are we going to do? What's the plan? And sometimes, we'll sit there and overthink it to death. And she gets mad at me when I go, just pick up that end and let's do it. She's like, but I need to know what it is. It's like, I don't know. The answer will come as we're doing it. If you don't grapple with it, you can't see where the resistance is, and then you can't fix it. So you can analyze it all day long, but until you pick it up and try to put it where it needs to be, you're not going to see it. You're going to think, oh, you're going to hit that chair. You're going to bump into this. You're going to break that. I don't know. I didn't measure how wide it is. I bet if we pick it up, I got a sense that it'll fit. And then if we get there and then we have to change our plan, then that's fine. Now we know what to change. So start breaking shit. I don't know. Just fucking start fixing it. I'm 70 years old and I sued my city. Cost me $6,000. But you know what? Maybe someone saw that and went, next time I'm going to call Mark and go, what the fuck did you do? Well, I lost, got my ass kicked. Yeah, but you had him on the ropes. I was like, well, yeah. If I'd have had a good friend that was a fucking lawyer. I even told the city council manager, I said, after I went in and gave him my $6,000, which I gave him cash just to be an asshole even more. I don't know if it bothered them. They don't care. They're just happy to get their vig. They don't care how it comes. I told her, I said, you're really lucky I'm not a retired, lawyer, constitutional lawyer. She's like, oh, why is that? And I said, because I would own this town. And all the mistakes you made in this court case. There was harassment, which is a federal crime. I could have sent that guy to jail if I'd have known what he was doing. I said, I could have owned this town. Quite literally owned it. And rather than her saying, well, I'm confused, what did we do wrong? Because she knew, I I told the city council how to fix this. I go, you got to do is change 2 or 3 words in your ordinance and it becomes constitutional. We'll look into it. She didn't go, well, what could we do better to help? I'm sorry. I didn't have a lot to do with that, but. And then I could have said, well, maybe you shouldn't have lied, but that's different. No, she looked at me and said, well, I'm glad you didn't. It's like, what the fuck did you just say? You're glad that I'm not a lawyer and I didn't sue you? You don't even care why? It's like, I'm just glad you didn't shoot us. Yeah, well, next time maybe I will. So, all right. I'm getting calls on my phone. I'm missing people that probably want to ask me questions about stupid shit. So think about it. Get involved. You can always email me, mark@prepperguy.com. I got a lot of videos on prepperguy.com. You have to sort through a lot of shit. They're all long format, even when it wasn't cool to be long format. Mine were long format. So, and I ramble and I get distracted because, not that it is so important that I need to dedicate 3 hours of my mind on one subject. Most subjects are problematic because of so many other fucking things that caused it. So I'm going to let you go. Infamous words from Mark the Prepper Guy. I love you. Enjoy yourself. Get ready for the collapse because it's coming, And stop believing everything you see and hear on the media. Ask yourself, is Putin really the bad guy? Has he done anything my country hasn't done before? Has he turned his economy around in 2 years, tenfold, where our government is collapsing ours? Well, okay, then maybe Putin's not the best guy. Do I want to have a beer with him? Look, I don't know. I guess if I could, I would. Actually, I'd do shots with him with vodka if he drank. Do you think what's happening in Gaza is genocide? If you have a clear mind, you can look at it and go, genocide is genocide no matter who's doing it. Just stop buying all the fucking bullshit. And most of this bullshit comes up because we allow it to. We allow it to distract us. We allow it to just go on and on and on. So honestly, I'm with Tucker Carlson on this one. I don't really care what happens over there, wherever there is. What's happening in America? That's what I care about. That's probably why Washington, I think it was, that said avoid foreign entanglements. Why? Because fuck them. We got our own country to run. Do I care if my neighbor bought a Chevy or a Ford? No. I don't care. I got a Toyota. We're all happy. But if you want to get involved and say, well, you should have bought a Toyota, I'm going to go to war with you, then you're just a fuck up. And that's what we are in America. We're just fuck ups, getting involved in everything. And no one can look at the bigger picture and go, the reason we're in this shitstorm is because we jumped right in the middle of this shitstorm. And we stripped off our clothes and jumped into a giant pile of shit and then started complaining about it stinking. That was on you and me. We can sit there and go, well, no, that was our government. They didn't ask us. Like, no, they didn't. You know why? Because we don't require them to ask us. You ever think about that? So take care, learn, become educated, learn to use your head for expansion and, besides a hat rack. And try to fix it because I'm at my wit's end when it comes to fixing it. I was going to run for city council. Now I don't care. I don't care if my city goes bankrupt because it's a city. It's a charter. I don't believe in it. So if I was going to do something, I'd probably want to run for sheriff or become a deputy because everything else is just a waste of fucking time. But maybe you might think your town is worth fixing. So then get elected. Get involved. McGregor, he's got that new website, or Our Country, Our Choice. And he's talking about recruiting people, but he's talking about getting people into Washington. And I think that is on the fringes of the problem. You need to dive right into the root of the problem and kill it at the root. And then let the rest of it just fucking die and fall over and use it for firewood. But if you want to get out on the leaves and start coming in like maybe a pesticide or herbicide to kill it at the root, it's not how it works in America. You just got to drill down to the root, which is your county and your home and your personal beliefs, and kill the problem there. And then let it die outward. So that's my words of probably lack of wisdom for today. I love you guys all. Take care.
We've made too many compromises already. Too many retreats. They invade our space, and we fall back.
I'm your huckleberry.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
That's just my game.